Hello, hello. God bless you and welcome to another podcast. On today, everybody, we are going to deal with the topic of we must understand how things work. We must understand how things work. When I was young a minister coming up, and when you are a young minister coming up, you're so gung-ho and ready to go. And a lot of times the veterans will come to you and slow you down and, try to give you some advice. Now, the thing about that is that you have to make sure that they're giving you the right advice. And when I'm saying the right advice, a lot of times it's man's tradition. It's not the way God would have it to be. It would be how Bishop said. I'm just going to be on traditions for a very long time, everybody, because you must understand that that is what is destroying our relationship with God. That is what's keeping our relationship with God null and void. And when I say null and void, it's like we in and we out. We in and we out. And I've said this to y'all before. God does not compromise. We must understand how things work. Now, from what I was saying before was when I said we're gung-ho and we're ready to go, we tend to miss. We tend to miss exactly what God is doing. We are, we are so quick and in a rush to go that when we slow down and begin to really look at the full picture instead of running head on and not caring or even giving consideration of why I'm moving so fast. There may be something in here to hurt me. And when I'm talking about the direction that you're going, and when somebody comes to you, then, like I said, when you're young and you're ready to go, we don't listen. We must understand how things work. We must understand, everyone, how things work. When I heard this, and I throw this in, when you hear a pastor teaching and that motivates you, that's what the word is for. It begins to well up in you, and then you go to the word and you begin to research, and then you understand exactly what was being said. That's why when the media gives you bits and pieces, that's when things get misconstrued. Now, when I first heard this was there was a pastor from Nigeria, and the way he explained things was he said that there was millions being made in a certain province. And the thing about the millions being made in a certain province, the church was praying. They were praying and asking God, and he said, you must understand how things work. That meant that there was work to be done by them. But what has happened, everyone, and this will really help everyone to understand why we're at this stalemate. We're just praying and we're not going out and doing what God told us to do. How do you think that what's that scripture says? The wealth of the rich is laid up for the poor. You think it's just going to come? It's just going to fall down? You think the rich going to let that go like that? Come on now. We must understand how things work. We must get into position for the promises of God. See, we are under the impression, because of, like we say, it's such a microwave age, that it's just going to fall from the sky. And that's not the case. When we go to work and we do everything that we're supposed to do, and sometimes the things that we do that day, we don't know how we did it because we were extremely tired, and sometimes it was extremely hard, and we just don't get the understanding that we must continue to work. We must continue to work. We now don't, I'm not doubling back. I know y'all heard me say a lot of times, they always talk about work. And that's true. You're not supposed to work yourself in the ground. But when it comes to the promises of God, we must stay in position to get his blessings. Now, let me explain that. When I say we must stay in position, that does not mean that we just keep working till we die. I'm not saying that. God gave us instructions of how to live holy, to fast and pray, and put the flesh under subjection of Holy Spirit. But instead, we're just running off of what we're thinking is right, our mind frame, or somebody giving us bad advice. We must understand how things work. And we're not understanding. This still gets me. Listening to a song some years ago. It was was it Drake and Meek Mill, and it used one of them gospel songs, and I forgot what they call it in music, but Drake said, I pray to God and then I work to go get it. And I said, man, that's crazy. All the cussing and women and all the stuff. But he said that, and then it was like, thing about that, it was true. We must understand, everybody, that what God has for us, we must be in position to receive. But we're not in position, and the reason we're not in position, because I've said this over and over, and I will continue to say it. Hollywood is teaching us how to worship God, and God's not having it. It's not going to work the way Hollywood is telling you. I said before, when you have money, you're not concerned about how God is feeling. When you are in position, you understand what I'm saying? That's, man. I've said this before. Isn't it something how a person that got off of drugs, and thank God for it, they are more gung-ho than a person that has been sitting under God for about 20, 30 years? The person that has been sitting under God for 20 or 30 years is now laying back, relaxing, saying, I'm good. I have arrived. You young person, you young Christian in Christ, you have to work to get it. And that's what I'm talking about when I say traditions. Now, don't get me wrong. They do need training. I'm not saying that they don't. But that should be the thing to get that lazy 20 to 30-year Christian off their backside and begin to work. Oh boy, feel this flow right here. See, what happens is it becomes the older send the young ones out, but they sending the young ones out without the proper training. I'm gonna say that again. I said the older ones send the young ones out, but they send them out without the proper training. I must ask this question over and over again. And I ask this, are we still teaching about fasting? Or is it just when the pastor calls it? This thing is so difficult and hard and hard to do, because guess what? I said this before. The church has made this thing hard. We must understand how things work. God has a plan. When we study, we find out God's plan for ourselves. Not just because the pastor is doing a certain curriculum. And when I say curriculum, I'm talking Baptist or Methodist or Pentecostal or Apostolic. And that's where it's being misconstrued. That's where we're getting lost, because we do not have the personal relationship with God that we are supposed to have. Now, the reason that we don't have it, everyone, and I've said this before, is because the church has stepped in and said, we are God on the earth. Don't you worry. As long as you make us happy, then God will be happy with you. As long as you make us happy at the church, God is happy with you. Your only way to be covered, the only covering that God has offered you is in the church. Now, please, if you disagree, hit me up. That's the only covering, and that's what I said to y'all before. How is it that you're telling me to get God out of the box, but the box is the only way I can get God? The box is the only way that I'm going to be taught how to commune with God. I will always promote a personal relationship with God. Why? Because that's your right. As a human being, as a believer, you have that right to have that personal relationship. Now, what happens is, everyone, in your personal relationship, and as I was getting prepared for this, God began to speak. We're not understanding that. Okay, now, when I say we must understand how things work. When we give our free will unto someone else, then that free will that we give unto them gives them the authority. When we give them the authority, that gives them the authority to do what they please with us. Did you get that? When we give our free will away to someone, then they intact take their free will and use it on us. And now when I say they use it on us, they do as they please, and there is nothing that you can do about it. Now, that goes for the church as well as political. We down here in North Carolina, I know that y'all have been seeing on the news, they had a special session and there was no one involved. It was not public. The only thing they are going to say to us is these are the laws and this is what you will abide to. You must begin to understand, everybody, how things work. When my God, when we are just sitting here on our knees, just praying, God, please do it. God, please do it. You already know what you need to do, but instead you're saying, God, please, God, give me strength. You already have the strength, brother and sister. You already have the strength. I've said this before. And if this mixes in, then it mixes in. I'm going to speak as I hear God speaking now. When it comes to, and I've said this before, when we talk about politics, a lot of people will say politics come from the Bible. We doing this the way, and we all know that that's not true. It is so far left, and it's so messed up, and they're trying to make us believe. Come on, y'all. We must get to the point to where we understand how things work. The one thing that I have gotten from this past election was that only thing that Elder Kirk needs to do is continue to work and pay my taxes. They just want to make sure that they're taking all the money from me so they can try to mess, and then I die. That's when we talk about the birth certificate, and y'all can do your study on stuff like that, and the corporation, and how much we're worth more dead than alive, and things like that. And like I said, a lot of people that y'all think are conspiracy theorists are really telling the truth. We must understand how things work. The one thing that got me, and I liked it, and I said, I wish I did not take so long to begin to study and find things out. KRS One said, I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know more, and there was things that I knew that was going out. He was homeless, and you know what he said? He said he went to the library. He went to the library, and that's how he learned